Hey everyone, it's LS, and this is going to be another speed VOD review today. We have Fnatic versus Invictus Gaming. We're going to jump right into the pick ban. As always, I don't really give two shits about what the teams are actually going to draft or whatnot. I just care about the team compositions and what's going on there, and then talking about how the teams actually pilot them. So, with that being said, so far we have an Akali, Aurelia, and Aatrox, or Aatrox ban out of Fnatic. We'll see if there's any Kai'Sa priority or anything like that in this game. Urgot is likewise banned away by Invictus Gaming. I guess that's just to match the Aatrox ban by Fnatic. Rakan actually being first picked. A little bit surprising. Invictus Gaming gets it handed over. Hovering Draven right now. Also should mention that Pyke and Alistar are banned, and there's a Kai'Sa. I find this really surprising. Again, there was about a 2.5 week absence that I experienced towards the end of September, so I don't know what's going on, but I don't understand why Kai'Sa isn't just higher priority. I think that she's so flexible. She goes into everything, and it's just so scary. Now, interestingly enough, this did mean that Fnatic gets away with having Xayah Rakan. And then they also lock in the Sion pick, so they want to go with the tank top laner, and it is on the blue side, so it's most likely going to be self-sufficient and not really need too much jungle care. So what I'm expecting here is that there's an aggressive mid laner, and then they're going to play a heavy red side focused jungler matchup to prioritize mid and bottom lane, and I think that that's already just being given away with the Sion pick. Ornn has responded to the Sion from Invictus Gaming. The Kai'Sa is a little bit scary, but so far I think that these two drafts are actually fine up until this point anyway. LeBlanc being banned away now by Invictus Gaming despite having the counter pick available to them, which I do find a little bit weird. The Skarner's banned away as well. Skarner isn't a champion that So one of the things here is that when you acknowledge that Skarner's most likely not going to be able to path up to top lane to do anything with Sion against the Ornn, when you think about how the map plays out. Oh, let me open up Epic Pen. I don't actually have Epic Pen open. We're gonna try to do some Rap God stuff today because I can already feel that I'm probably gonna have to talk a lot about draft and stuff. So when you think about how the map is and Skarner's spires and whatnot, it's gonna be very unlikely that Sion can actually make his way up to top lane to do anything to Ornn, especially if it's gonna be inside of a blind matchup. But the thing here is that Invictus Gaming most likely has to show their jungler here first and then go for the counter pick mid against Caps. So this is also why I don't understand why LeBlanc is just being banned away. I know that some people think that LeBlanc is a very strong mid lane pick right now, arguably one of the strongest in the game, but again, when you still have counter picks available, I don't think that it's worth actually banning away, especially when you're a rookie. So I find this very, very surprising. I think that the Skarner and the LeBlanc bans are both actually quite bad by Invictus Gaming. It's being responded to by a Camille, even though Ornn was already locked in, so I guess they're worried about a jungle Camille pick. And then it's also being a Zac being banned away. So I guess what this is trying to do is trying to ensure that Caps and bottom lane are going to be able to have good jungle synergy and good jungle matchups. Xin Zhao now being hovered, and Fnatic now hovering Olaf, and I hope that they don't lock that in because that would be a terrible champion. It's a strong jungler pick, but I mean, it basically means that they're going to run out of fuel. And now with the Xayah Rakan and I mean, I guess with the Sion, it does provide some synergy for ganking top lane, even though you are going to be a blue side Olaf, and what? 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 What the fuck is this? What is this? Alright, so, this is just so weird. What? There's so many champions that are just available that IG can actually go for. I mean, Syndra is one of the champions that it seems like the Korean teams are really liking. Syndra's open. I haven't seen the games yet, so Syndra's open. I mean, Zoe's available, but you don't want to pick Zoe here against this team composition. Azir is open, although I'm very doubtful that they would actually want to pick Azir. Ryze in this situation is not another you want a control utility mage to some extent. You want a range control utility mage. I mean, Ryze is pickable, but I mean, Azir comes to mind instantly. Azir comes up as a champion that I could see being picked. And then I guess you have Victor. Victor's probably actually fine. Cassiopeia is actually probably fine against this Fnatic team composition as well. There's a lot of mid lane picks that are available to show this kind of a jungle mid duo, and then give Rookie the counter pick. So I think that we're looking at either Syndra, or we're looking at Ryze, or we're looking at Cassiopeia, or Azir. Those are the champions that come to mind immediately, off the top of my head. So we'll see what ends up happening, and it looks like they actually just lock in Syndra immediately. Twitch chat saying Orianna. Orianna isn't terrible, but I think that you can get a lot more value by not having Ori. Ori is very nice because she's extremely flexible, and if your team actually gets ahead, then it's very difficult for this Fnatic team composition to actually deal with her ball underneath turrets inside of sieges. And then she provides a lot of control and utility in the later stages of the game around the 25-minute mark, when you're trying to contain the blue team. Like this is like blue, and then this is wolves, right? You know, like these nooks and crannies, and then you have the turret here, and then another turret here, right? So Orianna is very, very good at standing around here and river and containing the blue team, while your team can actually just burst down the Baron, and it makes it very awkward for the blue team to actually turtle their blue side jungle and then make their way into river, especially when they don't have any poke mechanics inside of their team composition. So Orianna wouldn't be the worst pick here, but I think that if we're going with the narrative that some of the Korean teams had outside of that Genji game where they picked a very basic, bland composition, I think having the aggressive team or aggressive champions come out where you can still be flexible and still punish even more so, I think is more in line with how Korea and China has been seemingly playing throughout the tournament. So I can understand the Syndra. I personally am a fan of Orianna, but I would just expect either Syndra, Azir, or Cassiopeia to come out here. So, what do you mean louder? I think that the Fnatic draft is like Fnatic had a perfectly good draft up until those last two. I think that those last two are absolutely atrocious. So as soon as the game loads in, we'll actually talk about what the teams are trying to do. So we do this in all the VODs, all right? So Xin Zhao actually, if Sion manages to push Ornn in for whatever reason, then Xin Zhao actually has the ability to go up to top lane and get kills onto Sion. And Olaf does not want to be prioritizing actually going up to top lane because he doesn't have very much incentive to path to the left-hand side of the map, being blue side Olaf, and then also he's semi-reliant on the blast cone in order to get into the brush unless he's going to end up being spotted out by wards and stuff, especially if Duke ever ends up getting any sort of vision control crossing like this line, or if Rookie is able to provide him any vision control around here. It makes it very, very difficult for Brox to actually advance up. So Ning actually has utility to gank top lane, depending on how Sion's playing, and Brox doesn't have a lot of ways to help out. The other thing that Ning has going for him is that depending on how Swain is playing, things can also get scary, because Syndra and Xin Zhao inside of the 2v2 can get very, very scary as well. Inside of a match or a counter gank, I think that's one of the only things that maybe Swain and Olaf have going for them, is if Broxa can actually manage to match or counter gank Ning, then things get very ugly for Rookie and Ning, because Ning and Rookie have to commit with their abilities in order to make any sort of a gank happen. And their level of commitment is extremely heavy due to the nature of how Xin Zhao and Syndra engage. It usually requires them to use their spells that would otherwise be used to disengage or get away from anything, and it's too heavy of a commitment, so things can actually get very sloppy there. However, for Swain and Olaf, I don't think that the same is actually said. If Swain and Olaf actually commit to a gank onto Rookie and Rookie knocks them away and then Xin Zhao appears, Swain and Olaf actually have a much easier time of just turning around and saying, okay, we're not going to do this, due to the nature of their kits. So then when we look at bottom lane, we look at JackeyLove versus, or JackeyLove's Kai'Sa and the Leona against the Rakan and Xayah. One of the things that stands out to me is that they're more flexible in the sense that they can choose how to play around this area in bottom lane. And this makes it actually very difficult for Broxah to actually do anything in bot, so this is very surprising for me, even though Broxah is going to have the Predator available. I think that given this fact, as long as Ning actually just plays on the opposite side of the map of the Olaf, it's a lot easier for IG and Ning to play the early into mid-game transition. And I think that it's almost guaranteed that Jackie Love should be able to coast into the mid-game relatively fine, and Rookie should be able to amass quite a big lead, and then Soaz actually should be very vulnerable up in top lane. So I don't like the draft out of Fnatic. And I think that it's very difficult to pilot, and it requires IG to make a lot of mistakes. The one thing that they do have going for them is if they get ahead, they're extremely oppressive. But the way I'm looking at this is that they're basically one item spike. I think that they only win out over IG at one item, and then every single item after that, you think about like what Olaf's going to get, what Sion's going to get second item, Swain second item, etc. Typically, Swain actually continues to ramp up for a little bit. He continues to, he doesn't really slow down at 2 or 3, but given the nature of these team compositions and what they're going up against, I actually think Fnatic's team champions slow down at one item, so things get a little bit bad there. Oh, we're in 360 quality. I'm sorry. Okay, 1080. Sorry about that. All right. All right, we're experiencing a little bit of turbulence here. Some trades going down. All right, we're gonna have to pause for a second, then rewind, and then hopefully, is it fixing? Looks like it. Oh, no. Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna refresh with 1080. It wasn't like this yesterday. I don't know why this is doing it. Let me do 720. Crane internet. Okay. Alright, this is... Alright, I don't know what's going on. Let me close everything. Let me hide chat here. Crane internet. What's going on? I hope it just stabilizes. That would be the best. Okay. Audio. It's not stabilizing. Why is it doing this? Twitch chat, what's going on here? No. Chat's not actually hidden. I mean, I hid chat on the other monitor. Can I not have these loading or something? Hold on. These were on auto 1080. I don't know why. It's really strange. Okay. Close entire browser and restart? Oh god. Alright, let me copy paste this. Yeah. Alright, let's see. Alright, some technical difficulty. Seems to be okay now. Thank you, Twitch chat, for helping out with that. Alright. So we're looking at some of the openings, and I really like how Ning actually went from the red to the blue. This is going to actually further hurt Olaf. So we can see something which is kind of actually odd. Broxah elects to he elects to do a full red side clear, which he's not going to have any incentive to go into bottom lane. Now off the recall, he would path into his blue side jungle, but the problem is that if he paths into his blue side jungle and Sion doesn't reliably get the bounce onto the turret, he doesn't have any incentive to actually go into Ning's red side jungle, because it's unlikely that he's going to find Ning, and it's also unlikely that he's going to be able to get anything by being on this side of the map. He's not going to be able to gank Ornn, and it's extremely unlikely that he's going to be able to gank Rookie. And the reason that I say this is because if Olaf would actually recall, clear out his blue side jungle, and then path up into the Scuttle Crab, and then try to come around on Rookie like this, you would then have to assume that Ning would be on the right-hand side, in which case you're falling into a counter or a match gank, which is very, very bad for Broxah, because this also means that now Ning and Rookie are likely going to be in proximity to your right side rubber banded camps, which then means that Broxah is in a very awkward situation for his jungle pathing. Okay. And it's lagging again at 2 times speed. Let me try 1.5. Okay. Alright. And so right now, Ning's trying to come down here. They actually have quite a sizable wave. Balin's here as well. Teleport coming out from Soaz, but it doesn't really... Or, no, it's not even Soaz, that's actually Caps. I don't know what Caps was thinking. There was absolutely no universe in which his teleport is ever going to dissuade the opponent there. Rookie is... Is Rookie going to get a solo kill? Oh, wow, he should have. He actually... He missed. Cap should have just gotten solo killed. Rookie is absolutely demolishing him right now. And one of the problems here is you look at what Brox is doing, and his whole pathing doesn't actually make sense, because it's not congruent with the type of thought process that this team composition should have going into the match. And I think that the whole thing with the blue being taken away is really bad. So IG is already actually at a pretty sizable lead in both mid and bottom lane, and these are the two lanes that we talked about. Fnatic should have been looking to get a mid-jungle matchup to also play around and protect Xayah Rakan down in bottom lane. Because ultimately, with the way that the initial first three picks unfolded, we already knew that that would be Fnatic's goal. That would be what they would have to be doing. And so for them to be already losing inside of these two lanes is really bad. I really like what Jackie and Balon are doing with they're letting the lane come into them, and this makes it very, very, very bad for Olaf because you have to know that Olaf is going to be pathing to the right-hand side of the map right now, and the reason that you can know that is because rubber banded camps have come up, and IG has information on that. Okay. IG comes down into bottom lane again. They end up picking up the kill on Reckless. Broxa is here, but it's not really going to matter. So already, I mean, things are very, very ugly because they see Broxa. They can actually hit tab and counter CS because they're not Saint Vicious, so they're not cavemen. They can tell that, okay, hey, he hasn't actually taken his rubber banded camps yet. So now for the next 2 minutes, everyone knows where Broxa is. And if you play Olaf, you don't have Predator, and you're going to try to gank lanes when your lanes are already super far behind. I have no idea what his sling was doing. The game is already looking like it's lights out. I mean, you look at the CS deficits and mid and bottom lane, and I just can't imagine in what scenario Fnatic is supposed to come back, because their team composition is all in on that first core item. And the fact that they're not going to be able to get to it, I don't know what they would expect to do. I mean, there's going to be some people that, you know, they're optimists or whatever you want to call it, and they're like, no, Fnatic can team fight against IG. No, they fucking can't. Absolutely not. All of their champions start to slow down. The only way that Fnatic could continue on in an even game would be if it was an even game where gold is dispersed throughout the teams, and all of the gold, however, is on Reckless. That would be the only scenario in which Fnatic could actually have even team fights at, like, 20-minute mark or 25-minute mark, would be if Xayah is really, really, really big, and then IG's gold is spread out. And so now they're going to make a play on bottom lane here. They're bringing down Broxa, and they teleport in Soaz. And they end up getting a kill, and Balon's going to go down as well. And you can see that Rookie's trying to make his way down. So, I mean, ultimately it ends up being a 2-for-1. Now Ning is here. He has his ultimate. That's also going to be a trade as well. And Fnatic are going really ham on trying to get this turret. Now, one of the things that you have to factor in is even though they're going to get the turret, they're getting XP, they're sharing XP, they're going to get the CS and whatnot, and obviously they're getting kills on IG. You have to factor in that Soaz is going to miss 2 waves up and top, right? So then you have to do the math on, you know, well, how much gold is 2 waves? How much XP is 2 waves? Because you have to factor that into the trade that you're seeing unfold down in bottom. So even though it looks really good for Fnatic, the reality of the situation is that it's not as good as it appears. They're going to get the turret, and it's going to accelerate them in gold, and this is really good for them because we talked about how, you know, they need that 1-item spike. They need to make sparks fly at that 1 item. The problem, however, comes in from when they were already so far behind in the CS department that even though this could be good, and again, it's not as good as it looks, it's almost entirely negated by everything that happened in the previous 7 minutes of the game. Now a teleport coming in mid lane from Caps. I actually don't know if I like the use of teleport there right away. Just taking another look at the replay, Jackie and Balon couldn't really get out of that. And now it looks like they are trying to get a kill onto Rookie, but it's not going to matter that much. Rookie doesn't actually have any mana. Cap's almost able to pick up a kill onto Leona. Duke is here. They end up picking up a kill onto Hisling, or Heis. I don't know how to say his ID. I'm so sorry. And so now Brox is actually being followed by Ning, and this whole situation is just very unfortunate. Like, we can talk about what Fnatic should be looking to do, but like, we talked about the thing that we did yesterday, right? What does Fnatic need to happen, right? What they need to happen is they need team fights, right? That's really bad spelling. They need team fights, okay? They need actually, this is it. This is I can't think of anything else Fnatic needs right now. It's not even like they want team fights, they need team fights. So when you know this as IG, even if on IG's side you're like, well, we want turrets, right? Like, IG says to themselves, well, we want turrets, we want objectives, like Herald, and we want Dragon and stuff, whatever. Anything that ties in to even potentially giving this to Fnatic, you just don't do it. It doesn't matter that you want to do it, you just don't fucking do it. You just don't allow this to occur. And if you don't allow it to occur, Fnatic starve and they die. You know? It's like, one of the analogies that I used to give in like a coaching session is like, you're in a room and there's someone in the doorway, and you basically, you have a sword and they can't approach you, but there's a gun in between both of you. And if you try to go for the gun and you can kill the person, then great, you can get out on your own accord. But there's people coming that will help you, and all you have to do is wait. So the correct decision would be to just wait, even though you want to just get the gun, shoot the guy, and then leave, because you're in a very high tense situation. It's very tense, it's very stressful, there's a lot of pressure, and you're afraid that you're going to die or something. But the reality is that you just hang tight, you don't try to go for the gun, because then something could happen, and if the other guy tries to go for the gun, then you'll just fucking kill him. So you just wait. But, you know, if you've ever seen a horror movie, then of course people go for the gun, because otherwise how does Hollywood make money? So that's pretty much all that is going on there. Alright, so Rookie is super far ahead on the Syndra, and that's a really, really big problem, because the Syndra is the one champion that can just actually eviscerate Zyra as soon as a team fight starts. And if Xayah ends up going down as soon as a team fight happens, then the rest of Fnatic just doesn't have the ammo to continue on a fight against the Syndra, the Kai'Sa, and even the Xin Zhao. Like, there's so much strong, powerful periodic damage on IG that it makes it so difficult for Fnatic's combo-reliant remaining members to actually doing anything. The Swain pick was absolutely terrible. Someone from chat asked, couldn't Fnatic hypothetically do stuttered engages to win team fights, negate CC, counter engage with Rookie, Sion, Olaf? I mean, this is under the assumption that IG will handshake team fights, right? What you're suggesting is that IG has to be bad enough to acknowledge that Fnatic doesn't want to, or IG has to be bad enough to not realize that Fnatic's only chance to win the game is teamfights, right? So if we acknowledge that IG is good enough to acknowledge that win condition and acknowledge that Fnatic has a need, not a want, and they just play against the need rather than their want or their own wants, then everything just goes out the window. Every argument just goes out the window. It doesn't matter. Like, it's nice to talk about, like, what Fnatic can do inside of those team fights, but the reality of the situation is that they're basically dead. And talking about anything that doesn't just surround preventing that from getting it to that point, I think is worse. Preventing Fnatic from getting in this situation is better than trying to fix how they can get out of the situation. Now Brock's, oh wow. Ended up picking up the kill on Duke. So that's actually a really nice pickup for Fnatic just now. And it looks like they're actually potentially going to get a kill on Rookie, but he actually manages to just knock them away as the rest of IG are actually doing Herald. And these are the things that... Oh, okay, looks like Caps is just going to die. Yeah, Jackie Lebs comes in with the Kai'Sa ultimate. I don't know what Hisling is doing. Okay, he barely managed to actually get away, but this is definitely going to be the mid-tier 1 turret going down. Oh, actually managed to save it. So at this point, IG should back up. They should basically say to themselves, hey, we're super far ahead in the CS department. Kai'Sa is absolutely massive. You look at the wave up in top lane, right? So there's a Scuttle Crab up, there's a Red up, there's Wolves up, all right? This wave in top lane is going to come into the top tier 1 turret of IG. So if Kai'Sa actually needed a recall right now would be the time to do it, because Syndra is going to be able to shove out this final wave. Syndra recalls herself, Syndra comes back into mid lane. Ornn is just slowly pushing back bottom lane into the opponent, and eventually what's going to happen is maybe Soaz goes like this, and then he goes down into bottom, eats the wave, eats the second wave. So what we could look at is Kai'Sa could actually just eat the Scuttle Crab, Kai'Sa recalls, goes up into top lane, and then meets the wave in front of her turret, and then takes 2 waves, crashes it into the top tier 1 turret. This is then responded to by one of the carries of Fnatic, and then after this is responded to and Rookie Re has priority in mid lane, Baolan is also on the left-hand side of the map, and now when Baolan's on the left-hand side, Rookie has priority mid, and then Kai'Sa's around here, then you guys collapse down and you come and you get the Herald. And while you're getting the Herald, this is the point in which Soaz should have been responding to the bottom lane push that was orchestrated by Duke, and then Duke can actually just rotate up through River into mid lane, then you suddenly have all 5 members of IG in mid lane, and then you look for the Rift Herald. And the problem is that Fnatic at this point in time does not have their primary tank at the fight, and so they're disincentivized to actually look for a team fight. And even if they would look for a team fight at this point, IG is in too good of a position to have option to just back off and basically say, okay, we're not going to team fight, or just actually outright win the 5v4. And so even though this is actually technically giving Fnatic a team fight, it's not really a team fight because it's unfair numbers, and then IG is already ahead. So it's one that they can actually look to coordinate. Okay. Rookie now coming top lane actually instead of Kai'Sa. So this probably means that Rookie's going to shove in one more wave, and you can see the Baolan's actually on mid left-hand side. So at this point, you see Soaz rotating into mid, or he actually just hits the Scryer and goes back down into bottom. It looks like Soaz is actually intent or insistent on trying to keep Ornn underneath the turret. And I think that this is fine, but one of the problems with this is that when Soaz actually makes the decision to try to lock Ornn underneath the turret, then Jackie Love and Rookie can actually just handshake it and be like, okay, we're going to be under turrets too, and then you guys are fucked because we scale better. But IG now with the 4 members on the left-hand side. It is important to note that Duke has teleport and so does Soaz, but IG just has way too much positional advantage on Fnatic, and you can see that Fnatic is just completely dropping the ball across the map, so it doesn't really matter. I think that Soaz letting Duke stay underneath the turret is actually quite bad, and I think that Fnatic is dropping the ball because they can't keep up in tempo pace with the lanes against IG due to the disadvantages that they've accumulated throughout the game. Okay, so now the Rift Herald is actually secured for Ning. You can see Ornn managed to get that wave into bottom, and Soaz is now going to respond to it. So, interestingly enough, the mid-tier 1 turret is already on its last leg, so I'd actually really hate to see IG use the Rift Herald on the mid-tier 1 turret, because I don't think that it's actually that much of a necessity, even though Fnatic technically has a utility mid laner that has wave clear. It's not as important as it would be against like an Azir or like an old Talia or a Victor or something of that nature, especially because of the damage that's already been inflicted on it. So what I want to see them do is I want to see them temporarily tap mid. Top lane is actually really bad, but then you group 5 in bottom and use double Rift Herald to get the bottom tier 1 economic turret and the bottom tier 2 objective turret. And it looks like actually Fnatic is potentially looking for a team fight. I don't actually know why they're prioritizing trying to get a fucking Clown Drake at this point in the game, because what they're doing during all of this is they gave up priority in mid lane, they gave up priority in top lane, and now they have basically made it so that IG has no reason to go to bottom other than to just get those 2 turrets with the Rift Herald. So I guess at this point in the game, there's potentially an argument for summoning the Rift Herald, but it looks like Rookie actually almost ends up going down. And you can see, actually, I think Rookie is going to go down. Balon now backing up, and Balon ends up dying as well. So this is a little bit reckless by IG. So you can see that they're trying to get this, but they don't actually want to summon the Herald to get it. If they summon the Herald to get it, they can actually back up and form a better concave, in which case Fnatic can't do this kind of engage with the same level of safety. And then you have to factor in that Fnatic's coming fresh off of the Dragon. They backed off and everything. And if you're not going to summon the Herald, then you shouldn't be that far up in the first place. So Fnatic ends up getting out a little bit of a win. And this is really good for them. It still doesn't mean that they're not behind. They definitely are. And you can see that Caps now ends up going top lane. Ning now trying to go up to top lane. I'm pretty sure that Xin Zhao can actually kill Caps, but Caps actually has a pretty good position in the top lane. If he had been up any further forward, then he definitely could have been chunked considerably. He checks and sees that Ning is there. Ning now shoving out top lane. And just check this one more time. So you can see the root and then obviously the SOAS knockup. So IG just shouldn't have been this far forward, again, because it's not that important to get this turret. If this turret was like an Azir or a Xerath or a Victor or something like that, the turret's a little bit more important, but given their advantages and the fact that, again, they scale harder, they don't need to commit as heavily as they are to this turret without just using the Herald. If they really, really want to get the turret, they should have just cast the Herald and they should have stood back. IG now picking up top tier 1 turret. And it looks like Reckless actually getting a pretty decent chunk of damage on that mid tier 1 turret. Syndra is probably about to complete her second item. One of the really scary things, I think, is Syndra, interestingly enough, is able to overkill Xayah without even having that many items. And so because of that, the fact that IG's gold is all allocated onto the Xin Zhao and the Kai'Sa is exactly where it needs to be. And now, this is what I like. I like that they're summoning the Rift Herald down in bottom lane. And it looks like actually they're just going to leave it alone. So they just pick up the bottom tier 1 turret, so Az is going to be able to advance forward and finally get that. I don't like the fact that it looks like IG is posturing for a fight, or that they're looking for one. Because, again, I don't really care that they have some stuff completed, although they do have a much better angle than Fnatic inside of this fight. And SOAS gets there, but it doesn't look like it actually matters all that much, and Caps goes down. So they're looking for a fight, and then Fnatic actually handshakes it. So then you have to ask yourself the question, does Fnatic have to handshake this? And this is what I get so fucking fed up with pro teams all the time. Okay, so is there any objective for either team to get right now through this fight? No. All right, so there's no objective. Is there any minions that need to be immediately taken care of in mid or bottom lane? No, there's no minions that need to be taken care of in mid or bottom lane. There's also no minions that can be utilized by IG to do anything with. Okay, so does Fnatic actually have to take this fight? No. Does Fnatic take this fight because, you know, no fucking reason? Yes, that's the check mark that we get. We see this in NA quite a lot. Team Liquid and TSM, I think, are notorious for it. They're two of my biggest complaints, and we see Fnatic doing it here. They don't recognize that they're considerably far behind and that they're in a considerably worse position inside of this fight, and that IG needs them to fight right now because otherwise, actually, Fnatic ends up winning out due to IG's poor rotations leading up to this moment. I mean, yes, they summoned the Rift Herald down in bottom, but they were clearly not in a position to actually utilize it more than just getting the tier 1 bottom turret. Fnatic handshakes the fight that they shouldn't have because they're doing something that they want to do rather than playing against a need of the opponent. And that was actually a really, really good play by SOAS. And it looks like... okay. It's just going to actually be a Baron stop, and Reckless is actually getting quite a lot of CS and XP in mid lane, so that was a good attempt by SOAS to salvage the situation. He did end up stopping the Baron. I'm going to rewind. Oh wow, the Baron knockup. That Baron knockup's actually really, really, really insane. Jesus. And then Reckless was actually doing the correct thing in mid lane. I like what Reckless was doing. So now, okay, let's see if Caps does it. You see this? All right. Is there any objective on the map that IG can get right now without Fnatic being able to respond? No. Is there a shitty dragon coming up? Yes. Okay, so do we care about the dragon for Fnatic? No, we don't. Does IG need time to recall and then try to fix the lanes? Yes. Does IG have 2 extremely poor lanes? Yes, they have 2 extremely poor lanes. So should we just freeze top lane if we're Caps? Yes. What are they going to do, though? Well, we're from the West, so let's take a look here. Oh, yeah. Just finished me off. So fucking bad, Jesus Christ. Can't even spell League of Legends. Mother of God. How many fucking years till people start, like, understanding? Oh my God. You can kill IG twice by permafreezing it. Yeah, I know Korea does it too. Teams are just fucking terrible. They can't spell League. It's so fucking sick. It takes a minute to just look at this and understand why you freeze. It really takes no thought process whatsoever. In 4 goddamn years I've been talking about it. You can go back in my VOD reviews from 2014. I talk about it there, and I talk about it a lot more now because I'm getting so sick of seeing it still in Season 8, and we're almost in Season 9. It's so ridiculous. You can just bleed the opponent of about 700 to 900 gold in addition to the XP that you're getting, and then obviously comeback XP and stuff. And they just don't do it, and it makes absolutely no sense. Okay. IG ends up picking up the Ocean Drake. It doesn't actually mean anything for them. Fnatic should acknowledge that they should not be looking for a team fight right now, and yet they're grouping up in a brush. They actually managed to pick up a kill onto... Okay, well, is Fnatic actually going to win this? Jesus Christ. If you're IG right now... Okay. Well, let's rewind and ask ourselves the question. Alright. You're IG. Do you have any lanes to make use of? Right? You don't have a mid. Right? You don't have mid lane. You have top lane coming into you. Your red's coming up soon. You have jungle camps. The enemy does not have jungle camps. You can't make use of bottom lane. Why do you want to take a team fight? Syndra's going to complete an item. Ornn's going to complete an item. I don't know how far along Leona is, but Leona's probably going to complete an item soon. Why is IG looking for a fight? But then also, why is Fnatic looking to handshake it? That's what's really weird. So Balon's actually completely separated from his team, which I don't know why IG's pathing the way that they do. And then Balon actually goes in, and the rest of IG, it looks like Soaz is just like saving the fucking fight. So like, okay, they can clump up in the bush and they can kill Balon, but IG's pathing and positioning is just really, really poor. Yeah, because they want. You guys are finally starting to say it now. They want to do this, not that they need to. IG wants to win the game, like now. They're being impatient rather than acknowledging the state of the map, looking at the minion waves, looking at, you know, the objectives that are available, looking at the fact that they've almost completed items. Duke just ran into a wall. What is Fnatic doing? What? What? Why, though? What? Even if you get the Baron there, right? Let's say that the Baron's not stolen. You're still gonna get aced, and you're still gonna give up... Like, let's say that IG doesn't have Baron minions right now. They're still going to get the inhibitor. They're still going to get the inhibitor, even without... well, actually, maybe they don't get the inhibitor. They will definitely get the inhibitor turret. I don't think they actually get the inhibitor. But that's fine, because the inhibitor turret in mid lane plays it's of no importance to how IG wins the game. They don't need super minions in mid. In fact, I might even actually argue that super minions in mid would be bad for IG, because it would mean that they can't control those minions, and Fnatic, if they're using their brain, can just let the super minion keep killing minions, and then IG slowly and gradually keeps losing a little bit of golden XP. I don't fully understand what's going on there. But anyways, IG is obviously massively far ahead now. Fnatic trying to go back into some guerrilla warfare mode. It's interesting that top lane actually just is not being utilized almost at all. Both teams are playing very, very reckless in the mid and bottom half of the map. Top lane's actually just being completely forgotten about. IG is basically saying that, you know, they've had enough, and it looks like they just want to end the game. And Syndra is just doing enormous amounts of work right now, and this Baron is obviously really problematic. You can see mid lane. This is actually where I guess the super minions are okay in this situation, because they have the Baron. But again, if they got the super minions without the Baron, it would be bad. But they can't actually utilize the super minions in mid without getting some other objective, whether it be top or bottom. And so now this looks like it's the game-ending fight. Leona ends up going down, but Sion ends up going down, and that was a really, really good fight by IG. So I guess that's just going to be the end of the game. They're just going to focus down the Nexus. Okay, so closing thoughts, I guess, on this game is IG played very sloppy. Or not sloppy, they played over-eager, and they played very reckless in the mid to late transition. I think that their early game was fantastic. I think that Fnatic's draft was absolutely abysmal, and I think that Fnatic went for plays that were extremely desperate, and they looked good in the moment, sort of like that bottom lane play. But if you actually let the dust settle and look at the aftermath of what happens, it doesn't look as good as it appears. And Fnatic was consistently going for very desperate plays in order to try to salvage the situations. Some of them ended up being rewarded, like the fight that was taken inside of the red side jungle, which Soaz was able to do massive amounts of work there, Soaz stopping the Baron as well. I think that that was actually a little bit reckless by IG, and I think that the way that IG actually started into the Baron was quite bad. So Fnatic's draft looked really, really, really poor. I think Brox's pathing was really, really weak. I think that Fnatic's understanding of how to play out that early game for mid and bottom lane was just not there, at least not relative to the enemy team composition. I do agree that the draft was really, really bad. I don't agree that the draft is the only reason that they lost the game, because I think that their early game was really, really poor. I think that obviously some people are going to say that they had some, you know, moments of hope when they were only down like 2 or 3k gold, but you have to understand that being down 2 or 3k gold to the superior scaling team is still really, really bad. The numbers are dishonest. They're further behind than what the gold suggests. So okay, that's it. We're going to go into the next Speed VOD review.